America is not finished. It's a place still being built while also fighting to exist. Life here begins along the Pacific on Kauai, where rain falls in sheets across one of the wettest mountains on the planet. But that beauty is temporary, as the same ground literally splits and burns. Kilauea's lava erupts in fury at nearly 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, swallowing roads, forests, and entire neighborhoods. Such is the story here. New land forms as old land burns. Creation and destruction somehow coexist just barely, but far north the fire stops and ice tells a different story. Just 250 years ago, Glacier Bay was completely solid wall-to-wall ice. Today, tidewater glaciers collapse violently into the sea without warning, releasing energy equal to small earthquakes. In America, even mountains can disappear in a lifetime. Ice and water don't always give life. At Havasu Falls, groundwater rich in calcium carbonate bursts from canyon. Walls in electric blue dot building travertine terraces beneath it. The desert is untamed, uncontrollable, and unforgiving, and the proof lies in Death Valley, which sinks 282 feet below sea level. Summer heat screams past 130 degrees, and rain often evaporates before it even reaches the ground. Same country, infinite extremes. When the land itself fights this hard for survival, so does everything in it. In a place this unforgiving, evolution sharpens its teeth into 2,000 pounds per square inch of sheer lethality. In the violent feeding grounds of Pacific Coast, the great white shark evolved the speed and weaponry needed to dominate one of the ocean's harshest ecosystems. The oceans here are absolute. This is not a quiet place. This is America, a place that's still under construction. On a crescent of blackened rock, where two volcanoes converge, the island of Maui breathes in steam and salt. Forests cling to ridges carved by old flows as their roots grip the cooled scars of past eruptions. The Nakau blowhole along its northern edge exhales ocean spray and rhythmic bursts as if the island itself still breathes through its volcanic lungs. Offshore, the crater of Makaini curves into a turquoise lagoon, its rim sheltering coral gardens alive with wrasses and butterfly fish. The summit of Haleakala reaches higher than the clouds overhead, with its barren slopes turning crimson in the dawn. Here, fire created form and air learned to carry it. Beneath those same waves where heat and motion blend, another story unfolds in the living currents that circle Maui shores. A humpback whale arcs through turquoise water with her calf gliding at her side. They move together in the warmth of the island's shallows, where the Pacific calms enough for birth. Each breath breaks the surface in a soft plume of mist that drifts into the trade, wind before vanishing. Males sing below, making calls that carry across miles. Calves practice breaching, leaping in the air and building strength of migration north. This is a time for mothers to ration energy so they can nurse with fat-rich milk for the long, unfed voyage ahead. When lava cools, it becomes a listener. Time begins its slow conversation with the surface, carving and softening, replacing violence with patience. Rain shapes ridges, wind polishes valleys, and every storm rephrases what the volcano once declared. Creation never ends. It only changes tempo. The volcano on Kauai has long fallen silent, and water has taken command. The summit of Mount Royal Ale collects clouds that pour rain almost without pause. From its ridges descend countless silver threads merging into the weeping wall, a living veil of water over emerald cliffs. The Nepali coast stands in jagged formation, each ridge a page in the island's erosion diary. Sea caves open and collapse with their ceilings torn by waves. The cliffs drop into the Pacific so abruptly abruptly that only narrow strips of sand mark land's resistance. Nature no longer builds here. It edits grain by grain, moment by moment, and then the mist that fades from view as sunlight returns, casting long shadows across a younger island where cliffs rise above a restless ocean. The island of Oahu divides itself between mountain and sea, its spine formed by the Kolo Range, where waterfalls shimmer down green escarpments. After sudden storms, valleys like Kuala cradle jungles that overrun into lagoons with the green folding neatly into the blue of the Pacific. Nearby, the arc of Diamond Head crowns Honolulu's skyline. It formed about 300,000 years ago during a single violent hydrovolcanic eruption when rising magma met groundwater near the southeast coast. The interaction produced steam explosion that built a tough cone 476 feet high and 3,520 ft across. Along the north shore, waves curl over reefs, forming hollow tunnels of moving glass that break with a roar. Even here, where streets meet sand and the cities press against the coast, the volcanic heart beneath the island remains alive, patient, and waiting. Across the Hawaiian chain, the same rhythm repeats. Fire builds water shapes, and wind carries the story forward. Each island is a chapter, each coastline a scar of revision. Creation and erosion work in unison, composing a world that never stops moving. Yet on the horizon, the story restarts, the glow of new land rising from darkness, from the depths of Pacific. The big island pushes upward like a living engine of creation still in motion. The slopes of Malua rise more than 13,000 feet above sea level and extend nearly 30,000 feet from the seafloor, forming Earth's largest volcano by volume. For the past 700,000 years, it has erupted over 30 times, building more land with each flow. Nearby, Cavalia remains among the planet's most active volcanoes. Its Halamo crater vents gas rich in sulfur dioxide that forms volcanic haze, drifting across the archipelago. Lava tubes branch beneath its flanks for miles, lined with obsidian-like glass. Where molten basalt once caused, at the coast, new lava deltas collapse explosively into the sea, where molten rock meets salt water at nearly 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, releasing clouds of acid, steam. Seabirds glide to the rising heat here, circling ground so young it is still hot enough to shape itself. They thrive between two worlds, air and ocean, spending months aloft over open water, adapted for endurance. They possess salt glands to excrete cedar, web feet, for efficient flight landings, and long, narrow wings for dynamic soaring. Species like petrels, terns, and albatrosses navigate vast distances, using celestial and magnetic cues. The Pacific cools as latitude climbs. The color fades from orange to white. Ice gathers in the north, ready to carve its own signature upon the land. Heat yields to pressure, and ice begins its long campaign of construction. Glaciers spread across the north, moving slower than erosion, yet carving deeper than any river. Each sheet of frozen gravity chisels mountain and valley alike, setting the foundation for the American landscape. The ridges of Glacier National Park in Montana reveal the handiwork of the last Ice Age. Over 700 miles of sculpted valleys, tarn lakes, and glacial cirques define a terrain once buried beneath an entire mile of ice. The park contains over 130 named lakes and hundreds more unnamed, many fed by meltwater from small remaining glaciers that formed nearly 7,000 years ago. Limestone cliffs expose fossils of ancient seas more than 1.5 billion years old, recording one of the planet's longest uninterrupted geological histories. Along high ledges, mountain goats navigate slopes as steep as 60 degrees with their rubberized hooves gripping rock polished by centuries of freeze and thaw. They are built for the extremes of alpine life with dense double-layered coats that can withstand wind chills below minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They are specialized climbers, making a 1,500 vertical feet ascent seem, like a joke, in under 20 minutes. This takes them to natural elevations to above 10,000 feet, far into Windswept ridges where predators rarely follow. At lower elevations, ice gives way to heat. The white fades into hues of orange and red. Deserts record the planet's fire in layers. Sandstone, one side, seafloor, hardened under pressure, and time stacked the strata like pages in a Journal of Climate and Catastrophe. In Utah, that record stands out, exposed in color. Zion National Park shows what happens when ancient dunes turn to stone. Over 150 million years ago, vast sand seas drifted across what was then the western rim of the Suppak continent Ponga. Iron and manganese later oxidized within the sand, giving today's cliffs there deep vermilion tones. The Virgin River continues to cut through this fossilized desert, slicing canyons over 2,000 feet deep. At the Narrows, the riverbed itself becomes a trail, flanked by sheer Navajo sandstone walls at close to just 30 feet apart. Each layer holds distinct crossbedding showing the direction of ancient winds frozen in rock. Southwest of Zion, temperature extremes that push the limits of survival. Death Valley is one of the most unforgiving, scorched places on planet Earth, redefining the true intensity of desert heat. It straddles California and Nevada as the lowest, hottest, and driest place in North America. Badwater Basin lies 282 feet below sea level, its floor crusted with hexagonal plates of salt left by a vanished Plutoan lake. Summer ground temperatures exceed 200 degrees Fahrenheit, capable of vaporizing rainfall before it soaks a single inch. Yet, the same basin occasionally blooms when rare winter storms arrive. More than 1,000 species of dormant wildflower seeds awaken in unison. Nearby, the racetrack plier displays another puzzle. Boulders that seem to move on their own. Thin nighttime ice sheets pushed by wind drag the stones across the clay, leaving trails up to 800 feet long. Proof that even here, motion never ceases. Heat yields to silence again as altitude climbs. Beneath the driest sky in America, a hidden system waits below ground. In the Great Basin, absence defines beauty. What seems empty at the surface hides entire worlds beneath. The last breath of volcanoes, the first whisper glaciers. Lehman Caves inside Great Basin National Park formed in marble once, buried under an ancient sea. Acidic that groundwater dissolved the carbonate rock, sculpting corridors that stretch more than 2 m. Inside, stalactites grow only a millimeter every century, while shields, thin discs of kaolite found in few caves worldwide, hang like fossilized ripples. Above ground, the slopes of Wheeler Peak support groves of the bristlecone pine, some exceeding 4,800 years in age. These trees predate most recorded history and grow where almost nothing else survives in soils thin. As dust and wind strong enough to strip bark, cold desert air rises into mountain light. Snow lingers and a distant peak divides the horizon with rock, newly carved by ice. Colorado sits within that corridor of uplift, its box canyon walls, rising 800 feet on all sides. Fed by snowmelt from the San Juan Mountains, Bear Creek Falls drops 285 feet, directly through volcanic brea, cutting a straight channel through the town's southern rim. The same glacial forces that gouged this valley also enriched it. Mineral veins of silver and lead still thread the cliffs, remnants of hydrothermal vents that once powered eruption after eruption. To the southwest, erosion shapes in miniature what glaciers once sculpted on a continental scale. Goblin Valley State Park in Utah contains thousands of hoodoos sandstone, pillars capped by harder rock that arid is slower than the column beneath, formed 170 million years ago in the tidal flats of an ancient inland sea. The Entrada sandstone hardened under alternating wet and dry cycles before. Wind carved the formations into shapes that seem almost biological. Measuring erosion here is measuring time itself, roughly 1 in of surface loss every 10,000 years. By the way, are you enjoying this documentary? Do us a big favor and hit the like button. Also, be sure to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you don't miss the next one. You will not want to miss it.